Video 10. The $4 billion crypto with no blockchain. The $4 billion crypto with no blockchain. In June 2016, a Bulgarian woman named Ruja Ignatova walked onto the stage at Wembley Arena in London in front of thousands of adoring fans. They were not there for a concert. They were there because she had promised to make them all rich with a new cryptocurrency that she said would replace Bitcoin. She called it OneCoin. She called herself the Cryptoqueen. And within 2 years, she would steal over $4 billion from investors across the globe and vanish from the face of the earth. The most remarkable part of the story is not the money. It is what OneCoin actually was. Because unlike Bitcoin, unlike Ethereum, unlike every legitimate cryptocurrency in existence, OneCoin had no blockchain. There was no technology behind it at all. It was a number on a screen and nothing more. This is the story of the biggest cryptocurrency fraud in history. Ruja Ignatova was not what you would expect from a crypto scammer. She had a law degree from the University of Konstanz in Germany. She had a PhD. She had worked at McKinsey, one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the world. She spoke multiple languages fluently and could command a room with the kind of confidence that made people want to believe whatever she was saying. She was born in Bulgaria in 1980 and moved to Germany as a child. By her early 30s, she had already been involved in a fraud conviction in Germany related to a metals company. But the details were quiet enough that most people never found out. In 2014, she launched OneCoin. The pitch was irresistible. Bitcoin had been around for 5 years and was making early investors wealthy. But Ruja told people that Bitcoin was old technology. OneCoin, she said, was the next evolution. It would be bigger, faster, and easier to use. And it was still early enough to get in on the ground floor. The way OneCoin worked was through a multi-level marketing structure. You did not simply buy OneCoin. You bought educational packages, ranging from a few $100s to over $100,000. These packages contained cryptocurrency training materials and, as a bonus, you received tokens that could be used to mine OneCoin. The more expensive the package, the more tokens you received. And if you recruited other people to buy packages, you earned commissions. The incentive to recruit was enormous, with some top promoters earning millions in referral bonuses. The genius of OneCoin was the illusion of technology. When investors logged into their OneCoin accounts, they saw a dashboard showing their coin balance and the current price of OneCoin. The price was always going up. Their investment was always growing. It felt real, but none of it was real. Behind the dashboard was nothing. There was no blockchain. There was no mining. There was no decentralized network of computers verifying transactions. The price that investors saw was simply a number that OneCoin's operators set manually. They decided the price. They typed it in. And the number went up because they wanted it to go up. This was confirmed when investigators later discovered internal communications between OneCoin executives. In one exchange, a technical manager asked what the price should be set to, and received instructions to keep increasing it gradually. The entire value of OneCoin was a fiction maintained by a few people with access to a database. What made this particularly cruel was that investors could not actually sell their OneCoin for real money. The exchange where you were supposed to trade OneCoin for cash was perpetually delayed, broken, or under maintenance. There was always a reason why you could not cash out today but would definitely be able to tomorrow. Meanwhile, the money kept flowing in. OneCoin spread through massive events in countries across Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. Promoters organized rallies that looked like evangelical revivals, with thousands of people chanting OneCoin slogans. The victims were often people who could least afford to lose money. Families in developing countries who had never invested in anything before were told this was their chance at financial freedom. Some people invested their entire life savings. Some took out loans. Some sold property. There were warnings. Almost from the beginning, people in the cryptocurrency community recognized OneCoin as a scam. It had no public blockchain, which meant there was no way to independently verify that the coin existed. Financial regulators in multiple countries issued warnings. In 2016, a blockchain developer hired by OneCoin to build their technology realized the company had no real cryptocurrency. When he raised concerns internally, he was told the blockchain was not his problem. He eventually quit and became one of the first insiders to speak publicly about the fraud. But the warnings did not stop the money. OneCoin's marketing machine was more powerful than any regulator's press release. The promoters were charismatic, the events were massive, and the promise was too good for many people to question. By 2017, OneCoin had taken in over $4 billion from investors in at least 175 countries. The money was laundered through a complex web of bank accounts, shell companies, and intermediaries. Ruja lived a life of extraordinary luxury. She owned a penthouse in London worth millions. She had a yacht. She wore jewelry that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Her inner circle lived similarly. The top promoters and executives were rewarded with luxury cars, exotic vacations, and massive cash bonuses. It was a pyramid of wealth built entirely on the savings of people who had been lied to. On October 25, 2017, Ruja Ignatova boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria to Athens, Greece. She was never seen again. By that point, she likely knew the walls were closing in. Law enforcement agencies in multiple countries were investigating OneCoin. Her brother, Konstantin Ignatov, had been given a larger role in the company, possibly to prepare for her exit, and the U.S. Department of Justice was building a case that would eventually result in multiple indictments. What happened to Ruja after she landed in Athens is one of the great mysteries of modern financial crime. Some investigators believe she obtained false identity documents and is living under an assumed name. Others have speculated that she may have been killed by organized crime figures involved in laundering OneCoin money. The truth is that nobody outside her closest circle knows. In 2022, the FBI added Ruja Ignatova to its 10 most wanted fugitives list, offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to her arrest. She was one of only a handful of women ever placed on that list. The legal consequences came for everyone around her. Her brother Konstantin was arrested in Los Angeles in 2019 and pleaded guilty to fraud and money laundering. Carl Sebastian Greenwood, co-founder and head of OneCoin's marketing network, was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, one of the longest sentences ever in a fraud case. Other promoters were arrested and convicted in various countries. OneCoin worked because it exploited something more powerful than technology. Trust. The people who invested were not stupid. They were people who trusted a friend who told them about an opportunity. They trusted a presenter at a professional-looking event. They trusted a woman with a PhD who spoke with absolute authority about the future of money. The multi-level marketing structure was what made the fraud so effective and so devastating. Every victim became an unwitting recruiter. People brought in their family members, their coworkers, their neighbors. When the truth came out, it did not just destroy bank accounts. It destroyed relationships. OneCoin also revealed a massive gap in global financial regulation. The cryptocurrency space was largely unregulated during OneCoin's rise. There was no licensing requirement for creating a new coin. There was no standard for what constituted a real blockchain versus a fake one. And because OneCoin operated across 175 countries simultaneously, no single regulator had the authority or resources to shut it down quickly. By the time law enforcement caught up, billions of dollars had already been stolen, and the person at the center of it all had disappeared. As of today, Ruja Ignatova remains one of the most wanted fugitives on Earth. OneCoin had no blockchain, no mining, no technology at all. It was $4 billion built on a lie, sold through trust and hype, and run by a woman who vanished into thin air. The FBI is still looking for her. If you want to see another story of someone who built a massive fraud on fake technology, watch our video on Elizabeth Holmes and how Theranos fooled the medical industry. And coming next, we are looking at Boeing and the deadly cost-cutting decisions behind the 737 MAX crashes. That story is coming soon. This is the Fraud Files. We are dedicated to exposing the biggest frauds, scams, and corporate scandals in history. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Video metadata. Title: The $4 billion crypto with no blockchain. Description: Ruja Ignatova convinced millions of people to invest in OneCoin, a cryptocurrency she claimed would replace Bitcoin. But OneCoin had no blockchain, no mining, and no real technology. The price investors saw on their screens was manually typed in by company employees. By the time law enforcement caught on, over $4 billion had been stolen from investors in 175 countries. Then Ignatova boarded a flight to Athens and vanished. She is now on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. This is the full story of the Cryptoqueen. #OneCoin, #Cryptoqueen, #The Fraud Files, #Cryptocurrency, #Fraud, #Ruja Ignatova, #Ponzi Scheme, #Documentary. Tags: OneCoin, OneCoin Scam, Cryptoqueen, Ruja Ignatova, Cryptocurrency Fraud, Bitcoin Scam, OneCoin Documentary, Fake Cryptocurrency, Crypto Scam, Ponzi Scheme, FBI Most Wanted, The Fraud Files, Blockchain Fraud, OneCoin Explained, Biggest Crypto Scam, Cryptocurrency Documentary, Financial Fraud, Multi-Level Marketing Scam, MLM Fraud, $4 billion Scam.